I'd like to wish Jake Delhomme a happy Valentine's Day in a platonic way. Quarterback emeritus for your Carolina Panthers, part of the radio team. You were down at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. First of all, as somebody who is a native of that state, how much fun was that for you to be there with everything going on around you?
Yeah, listen, it was extremely nice. I was down there on Thursday and Friday, and it was fantastic. You know, it had been a while, maybe 2011 or 12. I can't recall the last time they had a Super Bowl. And
yeah.
I will say this, and I'm not saying this because I live a couple hours away. Just in talking to many of the players and a lot of the sports reporters and things like that, and I know my agents, a lot of the players that they have doing appearances and things, they think New Orleans is head and shoulders better than any other city to host. It's just so easy once you get down into the quarter. Once you get down into that area, you don't need to rent a car or anything like that. Everything's within walking distance. The security was fantastic. The weather was great. And it was awesome. It was a good time. I know they had a huge turnout. And it was a huge success. And it seems like every NFL media personality, that's all they kept saying. They can't get back here soon enough. So it was nice. Very nice.
I was there for the last time. It was the Ravens and the 49ers. And the one thing I think that what came out of it, all the stuff I read, is just they need more hotel space, right? Because even the hotels in kind of, 15, 20 minutes outside of the city were going for, well over $1,000. So I just need some more hotel space so they can fit more people downtown. Although I'm not sure you can fit more people in town.
I'm not sure how much more they could. Yeah, it's not like a Jacksonville situation or a Tampa situation where you had to bring in ships, cruise ships, and Tampa we had to stay in Orlando doing some things. But yeah, it's pretty darn nice. I will say that.
All right, let's get into the real reason I contacted you earlier this week, because Bryce Young was down there. And I had talked to Darren Gant, Panthers.com, we asked the old guy, about how Bryce negotiated that. And he talked about made the analogy to the way he negotiated the season. And I remember listening to you, and I forget which game it was. It had been 3 or 4 games into the Bryce is now the quarterback. I don't think Dave Canales had declared him the quarterback at that point. He was just playing. But there was a game in which you said, this is progress. Those other games, it was okay, but it wasn't real progress. This was progress. And he got better from that point. So I want to get into your head, your quarterback brain, about where you saw Bryce take the biggest strides forward.
I think for me the biggest one was, so he came back when Andy and the family got in the car wreck, and so Bryce came back and I think it was the Denver game.
Denver,
first game back. Yeah. Okay. So then we beat New Orleans at home the following week, and then the Panthers. We went to Germany and beat the Giants. And I thought he did well, did some good things, used his feet, did some good things. But then we had a bye, and I thought the Kansas City Chiefs game, maybe November 24th, somewhere around there, right before Thanksgiving, I thought he was special that day. I hadn't seen much of this before. There were times where he had to stand in the pocket and he had to take stare down the barrel of the gun, so to speak, and he had to stare down Chris Jones coming at him, stood in the pocket, took some big hits, got swallowed up a couple of times, and made anticipatory throws, accurate throws, and that was one that I know we lost last second of that game, but that was one that really showed me. And then the following week we played Tampa, and we missed 2 field goals, we fumbled the ball in overtime, which we should have won that football game, and then again, you go the next week to Philadelphia. Who we know how good Philadelphia, that team is. And to see us, we started out well, and then Philadelphia takes the lead, and we go on like a 98-yard drive.
Yep.
And there's a touchdown pass that's dropped with 40 seconds left. And just to watch him play, I just think after the bye, we had a couple of wins, and he played some good football, decent football, but I just thought it improved. It got better. And it seemed like the game slowed down. You saw a little bit more personality from him. You saw him run out the tunnel first with the team. And I just think that just comes from time. We don't give young kids time at all. anymore. We want instant success. We want to put them in a microwave and make them be great right away. And it just doesn't make sense. It takes time. And I think that's what showed. And then, we played Dallas, and Dallas got after us pretty good. And then we come back the next week against Arizona, beat them in overtime, using his feet and his arms. And so he just played really well down the stretch. It ended up in Atlanta where he had 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and just the confidence factor. I think that's one of the things that really showed me. But it was the whole team in general. This team had nothing to play for. I don't remember the exact date when the team was mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, but that was in November, and the team just kept playing and kept showing up weekly. So I just think that says something to the coach, but also the rest of the guys in the team, and certainly the quarterback. Started out as rough as could be. And, he took coaching. He kept his mouth shut. He said all the right things. He worked hard. And lo and behold, the season ended well. And now there's optimism going into the offseason that this team's looking to move in the right direction.
Jake Delhomme is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show at Jake Delhomme _17 on Twitter. It says when we post this video in our podcast feed, it's going to say former Carolina Panthers quarterback. I would like to switch it to just say Carolina Panthers quarterback emeritus. I think that's a much better way of doing it. You're very present around the team, and I have a couple of more things I want to ask you, and we're going to get to optimism in a second, but the analogy you made about the microwave and how we want kids to be better, to be good right away, there is something very appropriate about using that as an amplifier, in that if you heat something up in a microwave, it doesn't stay hot as long. And not to mention it's uneven heat. But when you use the stove, it's even and it stays hot longer. That's been my experience about it. But I want to dig into the optimism. Because in your role as somebody on the broadcast, on the radio games, you've got to present some level of optimism. You're trying to sell Bryce Young to the fan base. But I'm curious if your opinion of what his future could be legitimately changed from year one, which wasn't as bad as the first 2 games in year 2, to the end of year 2, and now what do you think Bryce Young can be for this franchise?
Well, listen, we got to understand, he just finished year 2. We drafted him 1 overall in 2023. So when you're 1, you're not a good football team. Very simple. And we had to give up a number 1 wide receiver to be able to get him. And we had some injuries on the offensive line. We started 15 different combinations at the guard position in 2023. I don't care who it is. That's not healthy. That's not productive. You can't produce in that regard. And so, listen, we're going into year 3. There's still going to be some bumps in the road. This roster still has some holes that needs to be filled, and everyone knows that. Hopefully some people in their right mind understand that. But the team is going in the right direction. I think with the head coach and the general manager, they feel like, to me, they're in lockstep. They're moving in the right direction. Yeah, we need to probably get some defensive pieces in the free agency and in the draft, but there's still other holes throughout this football team that need to be filled. But the direction is going forward, and I think it helps knowing that, or seeing. I don't want to say knowing or what I believe. It's what I see and what I saw and what everyone saw. This young quarterback that we drafted 1 overall, there's some promise there, and he showed it the last 5 to 6 weeks of the season, and there's some promise going forward. And so if you can have someone like that, you just keep building the team around him and make the team better in the long run, and then you just kind of go from there. I think that's kind of the mindset you have to have. I think that's how you build it in the National Football League.
Jake Delhomme is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. We know they have a lot of holes on defense to fill. But give me a piece on offense that you would like to see them add.
Well, we have 1 tight end under contract right now. That's it. All we have is Jadeveon Sanders, the rookie. So we're going to have to add someone there, whether it's a re-signing of Tommy Tremble or get someone in free agency or in the draft. That's always a position. I think you can always look for another type of wide receiver to help. We're going to have to probably have a running back to be able to back up Chuba Hubbard at some point because Jonathan Brooks, it looks like he'll miss the whole season this year. So there's still some more pieces, and you can't have enough offensive linemen. You've got to be able to protect for the future. So, I mean, but right now, I mean, if you look at the way the roster is constructed, and we haven't started free agency yet, is that tight end. I think there's only one under contract right now.
Adam Thielen is a marvel, isn't he?
Love him. Glad to see that he wants to come back. You know, there were some questions that if he would come back, and we interviewed him at the Super Bowl, and we asked the question right away. And he said, listen, the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season, I thought for certain that was it. He said, because it takes a lot. But he said, you know, the way we finished out the season and what I'm seeing, I want to help be a part of this turnaround because he said it's coming. I can feel it. It's coming. So that was good to hear. He's such a, you know, Adam is just, with the young receivers that we have and his approach and how he prepares, but the biggest thing is watch him play. I mean, there's a tenacity. There's a, like, he's got his chip on his shoulder, and he plays a certain way, and it's pretty impressive, and I'm glad to see him back.
Doesn't he sort of act as a pass-catching tight end, too? So, yes, you need another tight end, certainly as a blocker, and you need like 3 other tight ends, but the way Thielen operates in tight spaces, middle of the field, close to the line of scrimmage, he sort of acts like that possession tight end that Cam had in Greg Olsen when Cam was at his early in his Panthers career.
I think a lot of it is it's on, and I call them gotta have it downs on the third downs, the fourth downs. That gotta have it when you gotta have this route, this completion, this catch for a first down to extend the drive. Adam shows up and he's got to have it down. Now, I'm not going to call him Greg Olsen because if you ever see Greg Olsen in person, that is a large man that was extremely fast, and he's a special player. You know, Adam's a very good size, but I think they still have that same mindset and mentality on gotta have it downs, really any down. I'm not saying just gotta have it, but any down, like, hey, I'm open, I'm going to be open, and if I'm not, it's okay. I'm going to catch it, or I'll make the other person, have an interference, a holding, or something like that. It's the mindset that they have.
Greg Olsen is also, man, one of the all-time greats, and he's a dynamite broadcaster, as you are. Now, final thing, and I saved this for last for a reason, because I really don't know how comfortable you are talking about it, so I'm just going to ask, and if you don't want to talk about it, I will say thank you to Jake Delhomme, and I will wish you a happy Valentine's Day, and we'll be good. What went through your mind when you heard the Cam Newton comments about getting into the locker room? You were already gone in 2011.
Yeah, I heard that, and at first I was taken aback by it because I was like, well, that's not right. And then I heard kind of his explanation of it. And he talked about himself. He goes, listen, I went in that locker room. He goes, and we went, 6 games his first year, or 7. He goes, and he called himself, he said, look, we were all losers. I mean, that's a mentality that you have as a player. I know I had as a player. If you weren't a team that made the playoffs, that was a losing season. I mean, that's the mentality. So I think we've got to understand the context of what he meant by it, because he certainly didn't mean Steve Smith, Jordan Gross, Ryan Khalil, Jonathan Stewart. I can go on and on on some of the other players, D'Angelo Williams, James Anderson, Charles Godfrey. I mean, he didn't mean those guys. It's just the team had a losing record. And so, listen, we can look at words, however we want to say about it. It is what it is. I mean, his mindset was we didn't win. We didn't make the playoffs. And then he said it, the team that I quarterbacked the next year didn't make the playoffs either. So I fell in that category. And I'm glad they didn't make the playoffs his rookie year, and they picked where they picked because they picked Luke Kuechly. So I'm glad they didn't make it that year. We were able to get a rock star in Luke.
No question, a future Hall of Famer in Luke Kuechly, and who knows? I think Cam Newton is potentially a Hall of Famer as well. Jake Delhomme, I appreciate your time, sir. Love catching up. We'll do it again soon. Be well. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk down the road.
All right. Sounds good. I have a happy Valentine's Day, everyone out there. Take care.
Take care. Jake Delhomme, at Jake Delhomme _17 on Twitter.